Good morning, family. Sister Shauna here from Love in the Pot. And I just thought I would give you a little tour of my garden, my little garden project that started almost 4 years ago. Some things returned, some things didn't, and I just continue to plant seed, read the back of those packs, and do the best I can to nurture the plants and maintain them. Um, And not long after starting up the little garden, I realized um, I need more product to actually get enough yield to feed my family. I have a relatively, well, I would say mid-sized family. There are 7 of us that I have to feed every day. So I certainly want to help reduce the grocery costs and try to get some fresh yield right here at home. So I thought I'd give you a quick glance at my little garden. The overview is beautiful up on the balcony, and we see all kind of creatures. The birdies like it out here. We get blue jays and robins and um, hummingbirds and all kind of dragonflies. And let me tell you, when you start a garden, creatures you've never seen before appear. All kind of bugs I had no idea about, and all kind of pests that I am fighting every day to preserve my vegetation. We want to eat it. We do not want to nurture it for the bugs. So, Lord's will, God will continue to allow it to grow, and I hope to improve each season and ultimately be able to really reduce the cost of groceries with our fresh vegetation. So here's our overview, and down below you see I have a lot of 5-gallon buckets. They're affordable and they're good for many plants because if you are learning about starting gardens at home, oftentimes that means you don't have quite as much space. So vertical gardening is great. It's something that I've gotten into recently, and so far it's working out. So you see in these buckets, I've certainly made holes in there. Um, and if the roots don't extend outward, like horizontally, then the plant will be successful. One thing I have learned is that you need to feed them more often because they suck the nutrients out of the soil faster than they would directly in the ground. So it's trial and error. I take each week by week, based on the needs of the plants because it could vary based on the weather conditions. It could vary based on so many other factors. And then, of course, you're combating like powdery mildew here in Georgia with the heat. That's something that's been attacking my large leaf vegetables like the cucumber plant, sometimes the watermelon plant because they like a lot of water also, and definitely the squashes. So when you see it, cut it away, remove it far from your garden because it spreads easily and it can contaminate much of your garden if you leave it to its own devices. So anyhow, you see those big old leaves like reaching for the sky. That is the cucumber. It is on an upward trellis and it's pickling cucumber, so they're small. And right behind it is my watermelon plant. I also have sweet potatoes. That's that bush of green at the base of the bed. So you can have some things at the bottom of your bed, and if you incorporate vertical gardening, then you can train some things to grow up. So especially if their roots aren't humongous, they won't be fighting for nutrients. So you could certainly do it like that, and then keep in mind that you're feeding your garden as recommended based on your plant needs. In the buckets here in the front, that's a fig plant. It started out as actually a seed, and this is like, I want to say, going on its 4th year or maybe the 3rd year, and it's getting bigger. So soon I'm going to put it in the ground. Right behind that in the bucket, I just started some little petite white squash. They're in the panny pan family. They're very cute and small and fancy. I remember in culinary school, those were really like fun to get our hands on. But that was many years ago, and of course, there's so many more variations of things now. But anyway, those are great for, or at least the package said it was great for buckets. Also, if you see that big old pretty flower back there, that's a squash blossom. So that's my yellow squash. I'm training it vertically, pruning out the base leaves so the pests, well, it will reduce pests hopping up on the plant, and it will also reduce disease and sickness because of the splashing. So like when you water, you want to water at the base of the plants, and you want to use a mode on your hose or your sprayer that doesn't make a big mist and spray up all the soil, because there are microbes and compost and all kind of stuff in that soil, like active organisms, and if you get some of those things on your plant, it could make it sick. So watering at the base of the plant is always great. These are things I'm learning. Remember, I'm a novice. Just gained experience through research and trial and error. So I thought I'd share. Didn't know this would be so long-winded, but anyway, here we go. And also mulching. So watering at the base of the plant and mulching is helpful. Avoiding watering your leaves or your foliage will certainly help reduce powdery mildew. Oftentimes, like when there's a heavy rain, I come out here and the next day and check for powdery mildew, because the rain and the humidity here in Georgia will make for that problem. So I prune out those bad leaves. I have like a little bucket I walk around with so that I'm not tempted to just toss them on the ground. And I know you see some, that's my son's doing. So I'll move those later. But anyway, and be mindful of the surrounding plants, that you don't throw any of the affected leaves in them, because then you're still spreading. Okay, so also heavy rains will run out the nutrients too. That's why I was saying, you check the plant. Check your soil. If you're new to this, you want to check your soil before you start a watering regimen. Stick your pinky or your finger down in there to the second, like halfway in the second nodule, somewhere in there. If the soil still feels moist, you're good to go. You don't have to water that day. And then the next day when you come out and check, you do the same thing. And if the soil is still relatively moist or has some moisture in there, you're good to go, because the top layers are always going to look dry. So anyway, once you get to that point where it's kind of dry, that's when you want to water. And that's how you prevent root rot and watering your plants. There are certain plants that need heavy watering, and they're kind of self-explanatory, like watermelon, cucumbers, those heavy water vegetables, grapes, and things of that nature. They like more water. If you just planted a tree, I learned that they need when you first put them in the ground, they need at least a gallon a day for the first 2 weeks. So I try to be consistent with that. I also mulch the base so I can retain moisture. And if you see my little tree there, it's got some new growth. The young leaves are very light. And those are pear trees. And something else that I learned is when you're planting certain stone fruit, or even certain fruit in general, fruit trees rather, you have to have two, and they need to cross pollinate. So the Most High is so amazing at how He created the world and all the creatures and trees and things that are here in it, and it's just amazing, the order of the Most High God. And with that, I say it's amazing, because even the plants have a role. And if you have, like, for instance, a pear or a peach tree and you only have one, well, they can't cross-pollinate. So there has to be two for the mating process. So I was like, wow, plants mate. But not in the general sense, but like that. And like with cucumbers, squash, I'm sure there are other plants as well, but many varieties like that. They have male and female flowers, and you have to have the pollen. Usually the bees and creatures will do it, but there's so few of them these days. If they haven't migrated to you, you may have to hand pollinate. But anyway, the pollen from the male flower has to make contact with the pollen from the female flower. So it's really amazing. That is how they make the fruit, which is the baby. So thought I'd throw that fun fact in there. But anyway, back to the garden. I have 3 varieties of squash in the back there behind the watermelon. Well, yes, 3 varieties. I have 2 zucchini, a yellow squash, and the little panny pan squash. That's my little pepper island down here with all the little pokey looking ones. And that long tray in the front is bok choy. Over here I'm training pearl golden tomatoes. It's an heirloom variety. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying them out, and they grow viney and tall. So that's that tall thing in front of the white trellis. Citronella to help deter the pests. And we move on down. You can see I've been fighting pests. They're eating out my kale. If you visited my channel, at the top on my banner, you will see that golden roast chicken and the pan of sauteed veggies. Well, those veggies came from my garden. That was a combination of kale, the kale and the Swiss chard, which you see here. Oh, I should have been doing that. Sorry. So the kale and the Swiss chard are amazing to have. And I learned early on that I really need to plant a lot of it in order to get a decent yield. So when I was able to yield last time from the 2 of them, I had enough kale for 2 nights of serving. So 14 portions, which is great. So that's the goal. We'll keep moving down. I have a little muscadine plant, fresh herbs, that's basil that you see bushed up there. I have other things growing in containers. I have oregano, thyme, green onion, all kind of stuff coming in. I am also sprouting or germinating other seeds that you don't see just yet, but they'll pop up in the future. And I have 2 blueberry bushes down there. They don't look so great, so I think their roots have outgrown the pots. So I'm going to put them in the ground soon. So there's my other little pear tree. And that's my grape plant. This is year 3, so hopefully, I think it's year 3. Hopefully next year I will have grapes, because it says it takes 2 to 3 years if you buy the young plant to begin getting grapes. So Lord's will, that'll happen soon. And this beautiful mountain of leaves is butternut squash. I have a few babies coming on that. I have corn down there. That smaller tower next to it, that's Noah's green bean tower. My young one sprouted those and they took off, so I put it in the garden. And over around the bend, that's my tomato plant. That's a big boy variety. It's like a slicing tomato. So they're coming. And one thing about them, you have to be very careful because they get big if you don't train the plant. And you may come out one morning, especially after a heavy rain, and find your plant has broken. That happened to me last year, and they get out of control. So I'm doing better this year. I've pruned it. I've kept it clean with primarily the main stem and its offshoots, and I'm trying to brace it as it grows. So that's that guy. Tomatoes are problematic. They can get sick very easily, so you don't want to really plant them with very many items. You need to rotate your soil every year, like try not every year, maybe every 2 to 3 years, I think they said. You don't want to plant continuously the same item in the same bed. Okay, always amend your soil each season with compost and those things that'll give it nutrients. And over here I have my rosemary bush. Now I started this guy from one of those little plants at Walmart that was like $2.50, and that was literally 4 years ago, and it's big enough that we even split it. And that little bin you see down there, we had it on the deck for easy access. So This is my garden. I will show you more in the near future as I'm harvesting and using products for Love in the Pot, um, because I do absolutely love using fresh produce, fresh herbs, daily. And as you know, they offer so many health benefits. The Lord made the herbs as a medicine. And so I figure, why not try to help my husband and help maintain the household better by trying to grow some of these things on my own and reduce our grocery costs. So that's the goal, and I hope to get better each year. And sisters, I just want to inspire you that and let you know that it can be done. I am a novice. I've always had a brown thumb. Everything I got, it would die. But I learned that it is most definitely a nursery. You have to check it daily. You have to care for it. You see something going wrong, then you need to um, search out problem resolution and fix it. And it just really takes nurturing and care. So if I can do it, you can do it. And I hope this was helpful to you. See you later on my latest video. Enjoy your day. And thank you for joining Love in the Pot.